All right. Well, we're here with Gordon McCann, legend from the Ozarks. He's been involved in the music, traditional fiddle music of the Ozarks for 40, 50 years?
Yeah, 40 years.
I believe he's actually the Ozark rap history major. He knows everything about Ozark rap.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, the thing is, we'll quickly go through some stuff because they don't know.
Okay.
The instruments you play, you don't have your fiddle with you.
Not right now.
But there was a lot of stringed instruments in Europe, and about the mid-1550s, this one that you play seemed to be the one. It was spread all through Europe, British Isles, and by the middle 1600s, it was over here, and the colonists brought it over. And the reason we know is the Puritans had posted things condemning the fiddle playing for these frolics because it kept people from going to church.
Yeah.
So, plus, those are music evil.
Yeah.
Let's just face it, music is evil.
Let me tell you now, this until just the recent years, that still, and probably if you hunted around, you'd find it still. Mm-hmm. But Art and I were playing down in Arkansas, I think, at one of these on the grounds things. You played 15, 20 minutes, and you're off for 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. And so we'd been finished, we were resting, and Art was about 20 foot away from me, holding his fiddle. And a woman came up and she talked to me. She said, "See that, man? See that's what he's holding?" She said, "Look at the top of that." She said, "See that curl?" She said, "That's the devil's hand curl." And going to take him to, I don't know, she said hell or where was she? But she was serious about it. Yeah. And I've run into that a lot. Usually it's religious convictions that they don't think.
I blame Charlie Daniels. The devil went down to Georgia.
This way before Charlie Daniels. I'm talking.
He just tapped into something.
Oh, Lord, yeah. But let's see.
If only they had known about the banjo back then, they would have had posters up everywhere.
The banjo was around, but banjo didn't have a resonator in then.
No.
Yeah.
And of course,
so you're saying it wasn't quite as obnoxious?
Hardly. You get a 5-string resonator banjo in a jam session with fiddles, mm-hmm. You won't hear the fiddles in it, and that happened just all the time. Mm-hmm. But now, people wonder, well, when did it come to the Ozarks then? Well, they think in the 1800s, but it's the 1700s, because over in France, of course, they hadn't had the payoff yet, where we bought the Louisiana Purchase.
Yeah.
Excuse my stuttering around here. But the Count de Renaud up there in France went to the king and said they had all these visions of gold just littering the floor.
All over, everywhere.
All everywhere, and everything. And they thought that's what they had, And so he talked him into financing it, and he went up into a couple of provinces in northern France that were mining provinces. And he took a big group of people and brought them over. They came into New Orleans and up probably about maybe that's where Cape started. And they went up and they ended up where the lead was around Potosi, Pulaski County. I hope that's right. And the lead was everywhere. And so but the thing is, and they mined a lot of lead and everything. But the thing is, getting it from there over to the river and then getting it down to New Orleans was too much for some of them. So about half the group were tired of fighting that and fighting Indians, and so they went back home. But another group stayed, and their descendants are still there. And they played the fiddle. They still are playing, like, oh gosh, Grand Isle, and I can't remember, Grand Picnic, and there's a couple other tunes of it. Now there's only one person I know now, and this guy is a German Strothmeyer is his name, but he's been promoting there. But people don't even know we have a French settlement in Missouri, but there is one up there. Yeah. But then, of course, when the Louisiana Purchase came, it really opened it up, and here came the settlers. And of course, the fiddle, by nature of its construction and everything, is easy to take around.
Yeah, exactly.
You never saw a drawing of a frontiersman on a saddle with a piano hung over his saddle. So
would have been impressive, though.
That would have been something.
Been a big horse.
But anyway, now the thing is, not all of them had the fiddle,
Yeah.
And they were sparsely settled, It'd be from holler to holler to holler was different people and everything, and they didn't communicate much. But if they had one fiddler in their community, and if he knew 2 or 3 tunes, That's all they needed.
Yeah.
They wanted the tempo, the dancers.
Yeah.
Because this is dance music. Most of fiddling is dance music. And if they had that one, and of course they could dance to it if you had a beat to it. I tell you, talking about this tempo and beat and everything, there was a fiddler down in Christian County, Sam Weatherman, was kind of a legend down there years ago. And he was at a contest, and a young man came up and said, "Mr. Weatherman, I see you don't have somebody to second you." Second, that means a company.
Yeah. Kind of what you were doing earlier.
Yeah, like I was doing. Sign it, kind of. And he said, "I'd like to second you if it's okay." And he said, "Oh, young man," and he said, "What are you going to play?" He said, "Young man, I'm straightening the language up a little bit. You don't worry about what I'm going to play or what key it's in. You just keep up." And I've seen this happen on stage other times too, where the fiddler will just stop and say, "Get with me," you know. Or in St. Louis one time, this real well-known fiddler stopped in there and told this girl, said, "If you can't keep up with me, go and sit down." And I always felt so sorry for her.
I think that's the way it always happens with me. If I play with anybody, it's pretty much either keep up or get out of here.
Because that tempo is the thing.
That's what people were there for, yeah.
But the fiddle is just, it's in the Ozarks, and really nationally, you could almost say it's second only to the human voice as the instrument of the people.
Yeah.
Nothing against the guitar or the banjo, but it is the lead instrument in Europe and here.
Yeah.
It was probably the key, right? When you go out, like you said, it was for dances. People wanted to go out to dance.
Yeah.
And that instrument is able to carry. And if you got 30 couples out on a dance floor yelling and hooping and hollering, the only instrument you're going to possibly be able to hear is a fiddle.
Well, and that's when they used to scordatura, in other words, cross tune, because you got more volume cross tuning. And it's easier. You don't have to play with it medley on two strings.
Yeah. Well, you get multiple strings going on at the same time, right?
Yeah. And we should have played it cross tune.
Yeah, I'm not good at that either.
Learn it first.
I got to learn how to do it. I was working on some tunings, and it's really entertaining because it's almost like, for lack of a better word, you almost get sloppy with your bow because the idea is you got more strings going on to kind of accompany you. And like you said, the key you didn't have 8 or 9 musicians in a group to be able to work these dances.
Get away with just the one.
You had to, if you were lucky if you got 1, you were really lucky if you got 2, and 3 was almost unheard of, right?
Yeah, really. But people, and the fiddle and the different styles, it lends itself to creating different styles and everything, because in the United States alone, we've got Franco-American up in New England, French fiddlers, and then lower down on the coast you get the Tidewater fiddlers, and in New York you get everything, and then at the big cities you get Irish fiddlers, and even in the Ozarks, our style of fiddling was different from holler to holler almost, because they didn't. What would happen is a fiddler, like maybe he knew those 2 or 3 tunes, and another fiddler would come through, or he'd go somewhere and he'd hear 3 or 4 more tunes. Well, they didn't have tape recorders, didn't have any of that, so he'd carry it home up here. And by the time he started playing it on his, he'd get tune A mixed up with tune D.
Yeah.
And B was C.
Created a new one.
And that's why everybody says, "Well, that sounds like so-and-so." Well, it probably,
started
part of it
way.
was, yeah.
Well, I always got a kick out of, like, a lot of times the old fiddle tunes would have the same name, and it would have the same exact name, and one guy would play it this way, and the other one do it in a different key, and it was exactly that same deal.
Yeah.
By the time they got home, it was like the telephone game.
It's still that way, though.
Yeah.
It's still that way. You go to a different part of the country, and the same tune we play here, they'll have a different name for it, but they're playing the same tune. They'll have a little variation to it,
I love some of the names they came up with. Some of them were just outlandish.
Some of them we're not going to repeat here on television.
No,
I'm not going to let you, Gordon.
No, I wouldn't anyway.
That's pretty funny. They got as creative with the names of them as they did the tune.
Yeah. Well, but one old fiddler told us one time, he said, "Just always remember, this is happy music."
That's right.
And I always have to laugh myself, but jam session you'd be playing, and when you quit, everybody laughs. I don't care what it could be, a funeral march. I think they'd all laugh. I guess because you got through it.
That for me, that is exactly why I laugh at the end.
Yeah.
Hey, I did that.
I laugh at how he got through it.
Yeah, me too.
So Gordon, what drew you to playing guitar? Like, how old were you when you started guitar?
First guitar I had was probably junior high, and just banging away on it, and that went all through years. We tried try to copy Nashville or something, you know, and that type of. And now, a lot of in this part of the country, I grew up listening to KWTO. That was our 50,000 watt station, and that's probably wrong. You'll get all sorts. You're gonna get all sorts of feedback on there. And but I grew up, and I had an aunt that was on KWTO. In fact, she toured with the Weaver Brothers in Elvira before she came there.
Really?
But she was an arranger then. She just arranged stuff. But I listened to all those people for years, so I had it in my mind. And then the one day that changed everything, asked Mona, there was an article in the paper about Manuel Wood's Ozark Opry down at Ozark, Missouri. And on the northeast corner of the square, there were 2 old false front buildings and a brick building here. Well, the one in the middle was where he had his place, his Opry. And I mean, if you were wanting to write a book on people, that was it. Because now I'm talking 40 years ago. And these people, some of them were my grandparents' age. But this was their Saturday night from all around that area, Tristan County and Taney and all that area, you know. And, let's see, Emmanuel, he was one of these bent over, played like this, you know. And that's where I first met Art. I saw this old gray-haired man that played so slowly. And then they had some other, but it was a mixture of everything. Nobody was in tune. We didn't have tuners anyway then, you know. And, oh my Lord, I can remember that's where I met Art, and he agreed to let me start playing with him so he could teach me, because he played. I learned from him and a fellow named Raymond Campbell from Ozark. It was Campbell, 2 sets of Campbells. One set makes money, the other make music. he was in the make music Campbell. And Lonnie Robertson was the other one. But the thing is, they all taught me, but they could because they all 3 played guitar. A lot of fiddlers can't tell you what to do because they don't play the guitar, you know. And that's what got me started. And then Art, we went one time to St. Louis. It was the second year they had the Arch, the festival at the Arch. And we ended up going up there 8 years. But when we were there, then there was some guy from Washington there. And the next year, I guess it's our second year going, we went to Wolf Trap up at Washington, D.C., the National Folk Festival is what that was. We didn't know what it was. Wolf Trap, we don't, you know. And that kind of got us started on stuff. We laid a lot of government tours, not because of me, because of his fiddling.
Yeah.
And I just talked a lot. And he didn't like to talk on stage. And as you know, I can talk.
I haven't noticed that.
So, but I did what he wanted. And so, boy.
Didn't you guys end up, when you're one of the shows up in St. Louis, end up doing a riverboat tour? And John Hartford was on
later
there?
on, no. I toured 2 years on the riverboat after Art died in '93.
Okay.
And this was about the turn of the century, I think. Maybe it did that. Well, that was just lucky. Is a man from Springfield, Charles Wolf, who was an authority on folk music. He had given lectures on the Missouri Ozarks the first year they had it. And then he had a heart problem, so he gave me my name. Well, here again, I didn't quite know what was going to. Now, that was an interesting thing because most of these people weren't from the Ozarks. They were, and it was expensive, not to us, you know.
That's why most of them weren't from the Ozarks.
yeah, I guess that's right. And but I had one guy ask, "Where in Alabama are we?" Because he thought there's an Ozark, Alabama, and he thought that. But that kind of thing went on all the time. And but that was really fun.
And was Hartford was on that?
Yeah, I played a week with them.
Yeah.
Now, if you'd second him, you had to kind of get on it first because he played the fiddle about like a person that sings and doesn't take a breath because he has no pause in there, and you have to learn how to keep it. But he was all right. I hear some criticism, but he was okay.
Yeah. Well, he was really into old-time music in general. I think he kind of studied various different areas and kind of combined a lot of them to create his own style.
Yeah, he's from St. Louis, and he worked a lot on down with those 2 brother fiddlers down there, and he worked a lot with them and learned a lot of their play stuff. See, this is trouble. My memory isn't what it used to be.
It's a lot better than mine now. So
People that have been friends of mine for years, I always tell people, I'll think about it in bed tonight, and I'll call you at 2 o'clock and say I was trying to remember. So.
We'll just overdub right there, and you can say the name.
Yeah.
So did you ever get into playing fiddle at all?
Oh no, I wish I had.
Because
I'm left-handed anyway.
you're the authority on Ozark fiddle, and you know more about this region and that style of music.
That's because I've lived longer than most. Lord,
I just didn't know if you'd ever actually attempted to play much fiddle or any of that.
I wish I'd learned the mandolin. Because I go now, and for years, I'll go and there'll be 8 guitars there,
Always.
and maybe 1 mandolin, and that's about it. And then if there's a 5-string banjo, resonator banjo, it didn't make any difference what we had. Well, they just are. This is the nature of them.
Yeah.
Now, these guys
They're
are
meant to be
good.
loud.
Well, let me tell you one thing. If I can make one recommendation, do not learn the mandolin.
Oh,
Wow.
well, fiddlers. You ought to be able to play the fiddle.
I ought to, but I can't.
Yeah, because Art used to work out his tunes that he was learning on the fiddle, on the mandolin first, and then he'd transfer them to the fiddle. Because your fingers the same way.
Yeah.
Except the mandolin has marks and the fiddle doesn't. You did good.
Well, I don't know. It's been fun trying to get back into it, and I have been listening to a lot more Ozark fiddlers and old-time fiddlers in general. I was kind of raised, out in Colorado.
You were
where I
on the
learned.
stage.
Yeah, well, and when I learned fiddle, it was out in Colorado. We had a lot of Texas influence.
Oh, yeah.
Also great style, but totally different feel.
More
Different
precision.
feel. And it's just a different feel. And then, like you said, even in the old-time world, there's so many different regions. I've talked to people in the Asheville, North Carolina area, and they have a different style completely than, more of the Appalachian styles. And,
even the Ozarks has different styles. Little Dixie is different. They play a lot more hornpipes than we played down here. Mm-hmm. And they didn't even recognize the Ozarks for a while until Bob Holt and Art came along, and that kind of gave them some names to. But anyway, well,
I know you've been at it for a long time. I love we've known each other for a while now. And we just sit and talk. And why don't you tell the story about how you ended up? What is the Martin that you have, and how you ended up?
We were on stage at the Arch, and the sidewalk was right outside this tent, and we saw a big guy walk by with a case with a piece of notepaper said Martin guitar for sale. So boy, we were on our last tune, and we shot out, and we saw him, of all things, going in the porta potty underneath the arch there. They had it back there. And so we went down and waited, and he came out, and he wanted to sell it. So I bought it, and the thing is, that was 43, and over the years, it'll pull that bottom up. Some of them will.
Yeah.
And that's the way it was. It was about that high and low, Well, you've played it.
Yeah.
And it's down there. I took out John Wynn, who was alive then. And everybody always said, don't take it to him. Well, he did that. He fixed that. He got it fixed real good.
Yeah.
And I play it now. And I still play my Gibson, that J50 Gibson I have.
Seen that.
But they're 2 different sizes, so.
We get to see his guitars quite often. Gordon always brings it to us for me to mess up the tuning and put new strings on it.
Oh, yeah.
And then
every time I offer to trade him for a new one, just the one that's not near as scratched up.
Now, I've got a new, Eastman is that?
Yeah, you have one of those too?
I've never played it twice. But what I wanted the case it was in. And your previous man was selling out.
Yeah.
So we got along real well.
He threw in a guitar with the case.
Yeah, threw the guitar in the case.
That's pretty funny.
Man. So, yeah, I mean, just being around the music for so long, you've amassed a collection of recordings.
Well,
and I know that's kind of been, how long has that process been kind of?
That's 40 years. The reason I recorded was to learn the tunes. I knew a lot of songs, and I knew the ones we played a while ago, Soldier of Joy and that kind of stuff, Eighth of Daniel. But I didn't know the tunes they were playing down at Ozark. And so I would find a Chapman's boys little high school recorder, a little cheap GE. And at first they kind of frowned, then they realized it wasn't anything bad.
I thought you were going to sell them?
Oh, yeah, sell them, yeah. And so I would take it home. Well, the more I did that, the more I listened. There'd be times I'd forget to turn it off. The dialogue. These people were all my parents' age and my grandparents' age. They're all gone now. One of them's left that I recorded that's still living. Just like down at McClurg, which is about the last I don't get around much anymore. There's probably a lot more old time venue, you know. So mostly fiddles, and so I started leaving it on purpose then, except not by accident. And so I have all this dialogue, and I transcribed it along with the others. They're all transcribed.
Really? That's a big undertaking.
There was 3,000 hours I gave to the university. MSU has them, and they're on the internet now. They're putting them on the internet. And I went back. I got worried when I saw, well, if I do this, I bet, because, you know, I had all sorts of conversations.
I bet
some
you
of
did.
them not work. Some of them
Oh,
should be
some would
published.
get me killed. And so I went back, and it took me about 5 years to listen to them, but I'd fast forward the music and then just listen to what they were saying. And there's only 2 times I had anything. And a funny thing I noticed, and people would think, oh, there was never any dirty jokes on these. There just weren't. Because playing music, they just didn't. Now, there's some verses to some tunes that I had to take out. There's a few of those, but they're everywhere anywhere, you know. But
Well, you kind of mistakenly captured a lot of Ozark history through the people that lived it.
Yeah, the culture, the lifestyle.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. I tell you, oh, man, I could write a book if I could remember it all. Some of the people. They grew up in a different world than we grew up in, you know. And golly.
And the music always brought people together to share those stories too. Like,
Oh, yeah.
you know, it's kind of like, you know, this whole deal.
Which McClurg is a great example. I've been out there a couple times with you, and it's still the same people have been going there for years. They have their pie and their potluck afterwards.
That are still alive.
Yeah, and there's a
And
lot
that's the
before I
thing.
got there in the past, but
gosh,
it's just a tradition now.
Oh, I tell you, fiddlers. Now, nothing against you.
I don't really consider myself a fiddler.
You are, but they'll always say. I've been with groups and say, you know, so and so is really a good fiddler, but there's one thing he doesn't do right. There's never been one. I don't care who it was. There's never been one. He couldn't do his waltzes right, or couldn't play a schottische or something, you know. But that's the way it is. It's just, and I tell you, in a group now, to these youngsters and everything, the fiddle's the lead instrument. He's the king, in other words. And when he's playing, you do what he wants to do.
Yep.
And that's the truth. I mean,
And that was a little different for us in the jam session point of view, coming from Colorado, where jams are more like a group thing and everyone gets their take.
Yeah.
But when you get to a fiddle jam, it's kind of whoever kicks that off, that's their song, and you just follow them and back them up. And it's their turn to kind of show out.
They're pretty individual now. And there's some young ones, but the trouble is, young ones get up to about junior high age or something. But there's no reason for them to go on with this. I'm talking about the fiddle now.
Yeah.
Because there's no square dancing now. Or they have clogging now, I don't know what. I tell you now, when you're talking to somebody in the Ozarks, in this area, and you say, oh, you all are good cloggers, they'll say, no, we're not. They're jig dancers. And the only thing I figured now it's different now. They teach clogging in school, but you can tell that the clogging is taught like the Rockettes, unison. So they'll line them up, and but you go down sometime where there's still some jig dancers left, and it's all different.
Yeah.
Each family had their own style. And some of them, I haven't seen any in recent. Well, I don't get around like I used to. But boy, there were some that I don't see how in the world they could keep going.
Legs and arms flying all over the place.
Yeah, really. And older too, not just little.
Some of those songs go on and on and on. They just keep dancing.
Well, that's why they, you know, you ever played for a square dance?
Yes.
Well, you can get burned out.
It'll wear you out.
And down at Hoot and Hollering. Now, if you want to see it anymore, I think it's in September or October, Hoot and Hollering at Gainesville. Now, that's where you'll see Douglas County and Ozark County and part of Christian County. There's still a lot of old Ozarks there. But you go down there and watch them. But what they did, these fiddlers or dancers always said, oh, you quit too soon, you quit too soon. So I don't know if it's Bob Holt and H.K. Sylvia, I don't know who it was, but two of the fiddlers are on stage said, well, let's just go. We'll see how far. But they only had one guitar second. So they went on and on and on, and they could change tunes while they were doing that. And on, and finally the dancers quit. But the guitar player was about to collapse. Nobody was there to spell him, and those fiddlers would trade off.
trade off.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Oh, Lord.
Just see how long the dancers can last.
Oh, well, but square dances that I was in, when I tape them, usually lasted about 10 minutes, maybe up to 15, but that was unusual to go that fast.
Yeah.
Most of them were 10 or a little less even.
Yeah.
But it's fun to watch them.
Oh yeah, we used to work with a square dance crew, and they would do songs, and they like to try to clogging / square dance type of thing, and they would want to go as fast as you could after a while, and so finally it just got to that point where you're just like, all right, we'll give it to them.
I think these fingers can move faster than those legs. You know?
Yeah,
Sometimes they trick you.
they can move so fast that you can hardly keep up banging away with
One
it.
of the funniest ones that I remember we ever did was we worked this dance out in Tennessee, and it had a big concrete slab in front of the stage.
Yeah.
And all the cloggers wanted to get out there and clog dance, you know, and it was more jig dance kind of style. And they kept telling us, play faster. Well, it didn't matter what speed we started at. When you got that many people on
they had taps on their
concrete,
shoes.
taps, and that, it always ended up, we'd start really fast, and all of a sudden, within about 35 seconds, it became whatever speed they wanted it to be.
Yeah, oh yeah.
They set the pace.
They'll cut it down, yeah. I don't know, a man here in town, he'd been dead for years, he remembered it in cabins sometimes, they'd have these wood floors. And he remembered one time some old boy was in there dancing like that and had a hobnail. But he said they just chewed the floor up, you know.
Yeah.
Said they had to watch about letting them in the house. But they used to, the square dancing was a big part of our social life here. And they'd have them, what they'd do is they'd empty the furniture out of the living room and maybe the bedroom next to or something. And they'd sit the fiddler in the doorway between the two. And those could get out of hand sometime. One friend of mine, I'd take him to music, and he'd always tell me all the houses down around next to Ozark. He said, I went to one that, I'd always remember this. He said one time, I went to one that's the worst place I ever went, the biggest fight they ever had. Two guys got in a fight over a half pint of gin. And he said the next time, the more of a fight, and the women were screaming and the babies were crying. He said, Gordon, it was utter chaos. He had his own words.
Yeah, that sounds like a good evening.
Yeah.
Sounds like a party we throw around here.
Oh, yeah. I tell you, only a couple of times was I at a music party where they started drinking, and I'm through there. I was around one that just about got out of hand that way, too.
Yeah. And tell us a little bit of how it came about. How many times have you been in the National Geographic?
Oh, two.
Two? I mean, that's more than most people.
That's more than I have, I guarantee you that.
Yeah.
So that, and then the Smithsonian Institution, they decided to do...
I'm a Smithsonian community scholar.
See? Look at that.
See?
That's also something most people
I
can't
got a
say.
nice little plaque, pretty little certificate, you know.
I'll trade you that and the guitar for a new one.
No. I stayed up there 2 weeks in Washington there. And that was a mission. I don't know why I was from the Ozarks. To them, that was really the hinterland, you know.
Yeah.
But it was pretty interesting. But
it's neat that, you know, nationally they start to recognize the impact that the Ozarks have had on creating their own music and their contribution to American music in general.
Yeah, Jimmy Driftwood, of course, gave him one of the first jumps on that. Well, there's others before them, but he was the one that, in modern times, with all the media we have, that with his songs he did, you know. He was a character, too. You probably have been around Franco-American or Canadian fiddlers, have you?
I have,
Canadian?
actually.
Did you ever see the ones that could...
Step dance and...
Man, there was the Baudrin family was the ones we were with at a lot of festivals. And Louis, the fiddler, they're all gone now. Boy, I never saw it, but that was a takeoff of living in a cabin by yourself with nothing to keep at the time, so they used that to use their time then.
You remember, we had a fiddle player down here for quite a few years by the name of Tyler Beckett. Do you remember him coming down and picking? Yeah, him and his sister played together, and she's a good step dancer and and
now see, her step dancing as opposed to clogging, as opposed to jig dancing, as opposed to flat foot. Well, you said, what did you say? Step
dancing. I think that's more the Canadian fiddle players. They called it step dancing, I think, a lot.
Well, Irish, step dancing,
And that's where she kind of got her thing. And you had Monroe buck danced. I don't know exactly what makes up a buck dance, but I'm assuming just being a guy. I'll tell you one thing. I've seen Jeremy buck dance. It's not something pretty.
Buck naked dance.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have to cut a lot of that stuff. Lordy, no. But it's been a lot of fun. Like I gave them 20. Let's see, most of my tapes were 90 minutes, and I gave them 2,700 tapes, which ended up about 3,000 hours.
Yeah.
And so that's what they're putting on. So they have somebody that watches it as they're transcribing it. So I wanted to go over there one time, and I said, well, let me see here. Shoot, the person sits there and just make sure an arrow was going back and forth. They didn't listen to anything.
Really?
Well, and somebody said, well, 100 years from now, they'll want to know how people lived then, and they would probably go back to that if they still have the stuff. Yeah. Lord, I gave them almost over 200 videos, the modern one,
Yep.
I wish I had those back. There was some good stuff on them.
Well, you think they'd make copies and let you get.
They may get you some of those copies back.
You got to get on the internet and get them like everyone else.
Yeah, you get them back. Nobody wants to buy anything. But I gave them those tapes, and they'll be there somewhere.
It's good. It's going to, like I said, preserve a lot of the history.
Well, now, I haven't heard much in town of people watching them. Have you seen them?
I haven't.
They're on your Facebook or something like that. I don't know.
They're on one of them internet-y, webby
all
things.
across the country, they get inquiries all the time, and I hear people say, well, I heard you, so-and-so tape you made,
Mm-hmm.
And they've had inquiries from England and from Europe, too.
That's good.
So, but I tell you, the one I did is different from the big ones in that I did the dialogue, and it's all typed out, all the verbal stuff.
It's a lot of work right there.
Most of it is just a tune. If people want to give me tapes still, I say, no, I can't take them now. But all they are is just tape. And I say, well, where was this made? Oh, I don't know. Who's playing? I don't know. And the tune's good, and I like to hear it, but after that many years, I've heard most of it.
I'll bet.
But these young ones are fascinating me. Golly. This Albie Dooms, his great-granddaughter was at McClurg a couple of weeks ago and played. She's really coming along, and she's 11. But there's a lot of, I wouldn't go below 10 too much, but a lot of 10, 11, 12, 13, jeez. They make me think, what am I sitting here doing, banging away?
Well, it's always awesome. We grew up doing the younger thing. I mean, believe it or not, we at one time were young. I don't know if you believe this or not.
You're young to me.
But we used to be kids and playing music, and I used to always, it kind of was interesting to me as a young person is seeing all these older people that are like, oh, he's so amazing kid, that kind of deal.
Yeah.
And you don't really think much of it now that I'm older and I'm seeing these young people that are taking on some of the older styles of music and stuff. It is really impressive, and it's really cool that we continue to get to see people. I think it's important for all musicians. I mean, this was something that my parents, my dad was really good about, was not only going, here's what you guys are playing, and this is what you're listening to, a more modern version of, the bluegrass, which is what we were playing at the time. But he would always kind of go, but here's where it came from. And at first, I think for young people, it's a hard thing for them to swallow because it is more archaic. It feels like a different deal.
Yeah.
And all kids are going to kind of buck against the old system of doing things, and that's normal. But it was really cool as I got older to really go back and get into that older style of music and force myself to kind of, and it became not a force after a while. It became one of those deals where it's like, I'm listening to where this came from. And now it's really cool as we teach, both of us teach, and I get a lot of young people come in and they'll go, did you hear such and such song? And I'm like, well, let me show you something. That song actually has been recorded 30 times before this, and let me show you where this was. And then he got those ideas from here, and in the end, they're just like, it kind of blows their mind. Same way it did me, probably same as you.
Yeah, the sad thing is, like Branson's a good example. If you don't play OBS, we call it, on Boston Special, or maybe Black Mountain Rag, maybe that, but forget everything else. That's all the audience knows. That's all they want. And I think the beautiful waltzes played really, I don't have many people play waltzes with anymore because they all want to go faster, you know. But they don't know what pretty music it was. Of course, this comes back. Those tunes, the first tune. Now, the first writing down of music would be with the choral music, and that'd be the 10th century with the churches. But in the late 1600s, there was a guy over in Scotland, I think, and he wrote a tune book, Tunes for Ye Old Fiddle, or something like that. I think so it was. And he was the first one we know of that did our types of the folk music tunes.
I think you told me once Cuckoo's Nest was one of the first ones.
That's one of the oldest.
Yeah.
One of the oldest. A lot of different words, a lot of different themes as to what it was, what that was about, you know. Some bad, you know. But there's a lot of these are older.
Yeah.
And Fisher's Hornpipe, you play that. We should have played that. It's a good one.
I didn't say I play it well. I can make through it.
Who's going to know it except some expert fiddler will say, oh, man.
And they won't watch our show anyway.
Yeah, they don't watch us anyway.
I do because I know you.
That's
And you can hardly stand
the only
it.
reason
I
we
told
tolerate
you.
it.
I told you it's kind of corny sometimes.
Sometimes?
That's what we're going for. So.
Yeah. This is when we started this show, it was like, how corny can we get?
Well, you got to do pretty good. No, I'm glad you're doing it. But just be sure to keep the music in it, you know. See, they'd never, at MSU, there was nobody really from the Ozarks. They were either from Springfield and had never left town, or from somewhere else in the country. And I actually talked them into going down to McClurg. This is right at the first when they were doing these. And one of the cameramen said, I wondered where, the further we went, I wondered where in the world are we going, because it's kind of a crooked road.
Yeah.
And then they started doing that then. And I was, the only thing I did was I was a front man, because I knew the people, you know, and got them set up and everything.
I think the same thing happened one of the times I went down there with you. A film crew showed up, a director and director of photography, and it was for that Winter's Bone, which became a pretty big national hit. But they wanted to go to McClurg to see local Ozark fiddle music that they were going to use as a theme of the movie.
I can't remember the girl's name. Gannett was the one that was in charge of that. But also, the thing that sounded odd to me, French public radio came over here a few years ago, and the Chamber of Commerce knew my name. That's all they knew. They didn't know what. But so they had them get in touch with me, and they did an interview at the motel with me, and I spoke English, and they said, "Now we'll translate this later," you know. So then she sent me a tape of it, and here I am talking, and all of a sudden I fade down here, blah, blah, blah,
French.
and talking French while I'm talking in the background, you know. Well, I was a French minor in college, but that's too long ago.
Oh, I was going to say, I thought you heard what they said, and it wasn't the same.
No, I didn't know. I wouldn't have known. No. But when I talk like that, they had to talk like this for me to understand what they're...
Did they do like a French Southern accent?
That would have been really nice.
Might have been, I don't know. Oh, there have been a lot of things happen. I could sit here for 6 hours.
I bet.
Well, we got plenty of tape.
Oh, yeah.
No, I think it's been it's awesome to get you in here, and I think what I really enjoy most of all is you coming by and visiting at the shop. It's been really good to have you come by.
I came by more.
We get him in here now. His wife
goes to the
his wife drops
salon.
him off and just kind of leaves him, and
she goes and gets her hair done.
I got 30 minutes.
That's right. Last time dropped him off. She goes. You guys babysit him for 30 minutes, and we put him a chair, and we all kind of stood around him and listened to him.
Jeez.
When we first opened the shop, me and you had talked to me. We started doing we tried doing the fiddle jam, old time fiddle jam here for a while, and
that wasn't old time fiddle mostly.
Most of them didn't show up that were the old time
Nice fellas, and
a lot of kids came up the first few times.
Yeah.
And then it kind of faded, and
and
then you ended up having a stroke, and we brought one of the jams to the hospital the day after.
I really appreciate that. I'll tell you that this is a fact now. Music will help you heal.
I was going to say, I saw it that day.
They told Mona, the doctors did, my family said he may never walk again and he may never talk again. I was in IC for 2 weeks, I guess. I don't remember it, of course. But the music
We went there, and you you couldn't communicate, you couldn't really talk,
Yeah.
and you kind of recognized me when we came in. We started playing, and we looked over, and your hands just started tapping along with the music.
Yeah.
And Mona just kind of lit up watching that, and all of a sudden your legs tapping, and we could see by the end of that jam you were coming back around. Music kind of
Mona
opened
probably
it up.
lit up saying, "Oh no."
Oh. He is going to talk again.
She's a very tolerant woman, I tell you. Man.
But that kind of opened up to me how powerful music is and
Really, yeah.
healing.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be this kind of music. It can be any kind, yeah.
But now he's back. He's been coming to the jams every once in a while.
Oh.
I watched him not long after that stroke. He's coming back in here. Had his seat and
I
his
got my
guitar.
calluses back.
That's right.
That's the thing that worried me in the hospital. Will I ever get my fingers again? That's what stops most steel guitar players.
Yeah.
Is after a
It
few
hurts.
days it kills them,
Yep.
Yeah.
and they just I'm not going to do this, or I want nylon strings or something, which of course it.
Well, I do know that definitely we are so thankful to have you back around and get to hang out with you. And we tease each other a lot, and he teases us a lot more than we tease him.
Oh well, hey, I'm just one person. There's so much of you, so many of you three, yeah.
Well, I'm definitely glad to have you in here today, and thanks for sharing a whole bunch of
Well, I
your
wonder how much
your
trouble
history.
I've gotten myself into.
You probably gotten a lot. We're gonna
Yeah.
make sure
You better watch your own place.
That's
here,
right.
you
We're
know.
gonna edit it two different ways. We're gonna edit the one that we'll show to most people, and then the ones we want to show to your enemies, we'll give you the.
Lordy. Now, see, but you got to remember, like Westphalia, was that the one I screwed up on? Yeah, that's the one I messed up in the middle.
You
I
did
forgot
just
where it
fine.
went. Part of it I remembered, but the other part did. But you stopped playing anything for 6 months or something, and then see, I heard more fiddlers, and this is not exaggerating, just older, my parents' age older, that would say, we'd say, well, that's a good tune. He'd say, yeah. Art was the same way. That was part of my Uncle So-and-so's tune. I can't remember the rest. Or I wish I could remember Aunt So-and-so's tunes, but they've lost, because they'll be playing when they're young, and then they'll move away and they have nobody to play with maybe. Or religion is another thing against it, They stop then to keep peace in the family. And or just quit because of age or something. And then they'll take it back up finally. But they've forgotten half of what they knew when they quit it,
That was kind of me. I used to play a lot of contest fiddling and stuff back when I was a kid. And then I quit playing probably for about 15, 18 years. I didn't play at all.
Well,
and it's been fun trying to get back into it the last few years here.
Yeah, but stay away from contests. I know I worked in a lot of contests and stuff.
I did too.
Seconded a lot of contest stuff. But that doesn't do it. You need to just get in a loose jam.
Yeah.
I always tell people one thing that you got to remember with contests, and this is my best advice for players in any style, is recognize that music is an art form.
Yeah.
And you
Very
can judge technically what somebody is doing maybe better than the other, but it's art. And you cannot say this is better music than this is. It's impossible to do. It's like standing in an art gallery and looking at 3 different painters and saying this one's better than all the rest. It doesn't necessarily. You may think it's better, but the next person that walks in there isn't. So I was always cautious to let people know that music contests do not necessarily tell you what is better music. And if you leave that up to some judge to tell you what's better, that doesn't mean very much at all.
The style of contest is pretty much the same now. It's the same tunes. It gets kind of old to me. And then if I'd been second, I'd been up and down the same chords I play, but they'd be mixing all these chords.
Sure.
But I just don't like Texas. Nothing against it, my friend. I have all my relatives live in Texas, But I like the fact that sometimes contests. I could tell you stories about contests. My gosh, but they can get out of hand too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Depends on who the judges are too. Oh, Lonnie's cousin used to judge the one at a little town right here, and then one year his cousin was sick, and Art went, and they asked Art to judge. Well, he didn't like to do it, but he would. So he was the only judge. Well, there were 5 contestants, but one was a girl that had to read her music on the floor, and another was just an old man just still playing, had diabetes, I think. But then the other 3 were, let's see, 2 of them were Lonnie's students. And so the three of us played. I seconded all 3 of them. I was the only one there to do that. And when it was over with, and Lonnie and his tune, I've forgotten what it was, but he lost it right in the middle. And of course, if you're second and your fiddle loses it, just keep seconding. Yeah. Just keep going and let him get it back and catch up with you. And after it was over, this one boy took first. He lives, you know him, he lives south here. Lonnie took second, and the other one took third. And I noticed when it was over, another thing they used to do at contests by people that didn't know what it was all about. Everybody get up here and we'll play Red Wing. And they weren't in tune together, you know, and it was just, and didn't know how to play it really. Yeah. But I noticed then, boy, Lonnie, then let's go, shot out of there. You know, he had a temper. And so I called him. I said, well, you ought to be proud. 2 of your students were, he said, what happened to the judging? He said, oh gosh, he said, I couldn't imagine him turning on me like that, Art. Yeah. And his cousin would have, he'd won it every year because the cousin was the judge, you know. Yeah. But Lonnie was a good fiddler now. I'm not knocking that. Good Lord.
They just missed it that day.
I got to tell you, my favorite fiddle contest story is the time that Jeremy took 3rd place in a fiddle contest. He played fiddle, took 3rd place. There was literally 3 people in that contest. They needed
one other person just so they could have the contest.
Yeah, that's right.
But he took 3rd place in that contest. Yeah. I was pretty proud of him.
Yeah.
I still brag about it.
Well, Drew Bostringer took, I think he won the one at Marionville because there were only three contestants. Yeah. And he still brags about that. Oh, Lord. Oh. Art, well, Art was from, his family came here in the 1840s. And do you know where, you probably don't, but where 125 crosses the James River out east of town? You ever heard of McCraw's Ford?
No.
Well, everybody called it McGraw. Well, it wasn't. It was McCraw's. And the McCraw family settled the same time the Galbraiths did out there. They said old man McCraw was walking down the road one time and somebody stopped and said, sir, can you tell me where the McGraw place is? He said, never heard of it. And just went on. But Art, his great uncle had won to go to the National Folk Festival at St. Louis. They called it a national. There was other nationals going on too. And he was quite a fiddler. He's the one that influenced the whole family. He died that night before he was supposed to leave the next day. But Art would listen to him when he was a little boy. And they had 2 uncles that played the fiddle that learned from Uncle Tobe. So I don't. But anyway, that's where he got started. And now he had a little lap steel, and he played in a 30s jazz group. And when he was a boy one time, somewhere they told him, said, here, play a tune, Art, and forced him right in front of the people. And he, pardon me, talking too much. I think it was Old Virginia or something he played with, said that kind of got him started. And then he just, in his mind, that's where his version of Flowers Edinburgh. And a lot of he plays. I have taped him for almost 40 waltzes he played. You won't find many that'll do that now. And he could play them good too. But then he went to SMS, and then became a teacher, and was principal of a school, and then went into the post office, and that's where he finished up, in the post office. So see, when we went to play at these places, he was retired. We wouldn't get home until like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I had to go to work at 7 o'clock. Yeah. So he had a good deal, like I say. Yeah, but boy, I tell you, some of the ones, about the farthest one we went to was down in Ozark County, and talk about an English name too, Glendale McGinnis's house, right next to Barefoot School. Barefoot School's where Lonnie's wife taught Thelma. Now Thelma was a brain. Thelma was really. Lonnie played and everything and talked everything, but she's the one, she told Mona, she said, I always stayed till we sold the last 50-cent songbook, you know. But she was blind when I knew her. Oh, Lord. Well, there's just a bunch of people I had a lot of fun with. That one I mentioned over at Cassville, I know somebody was talking out there about, was it blind? Or was there somebody talking about it? Maybe yesterday. We played, I went with Steve Scott down to Bonnybrook and played just to get to play, really. But Oh, Lord. But Glenn Rickman, Glenn would play a tune and they'd tell a story. And then he was blind. He'd been a Mopac engineer, and he always claimed he went blind for shoveling the hotbed, there. But and there's a completely different style of playing there. Just you go to these different fiddlers, if you ever could listen to the ones, I'll give you the names to listen to this. They're all different. Yeah. All of them different.
But Art was like your connection to getting into the Ozark.
Through Art, I met Lonnie and Raymond Campbell. Raymond Campbell never had a big name anywhere, but he lived in California for years. But he was an expert at following. In other words, we go to Tahlequah, Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. And that's where the Northeast Oklahoma State College is. And on their break, the North Arkansas Fiddlers Association would have a convention, and it was a good one. And we'd drive from here. We'd leave about 5 in the morning and get there. Oh, no, not that late. But anyway, we'd get there by about 10, get checked into a dorm, and then go over to the Commons place and start playing. Eat lunch, play all afternoon, eat supper, and play till about 11 when they ran us out. And then you go back to the dorm. Well, on each floor of the dorm in the rec area, there were groups playing. Mm-hmm. Now, we'd quit about 2 or so, but some of them were still playing at dawn the next day. Yeah. But then it was interesting. There were Indian fiddlers, which didn't play any different than we do, and Texas, and then Arkansas and Missouri, and then from other states, bits and pieces, and a lot of good ones too. And it was a good time. And then we'd come home, we'd leave about 2:30 Sunday, and man, our hands were gone.
Yeah, I bet.
And come back to Springfield and then sleep.
So how old were you when you started picking with Art then?
Older than you. Okay. I was probably 42.
Okay.
43, something like that.
So about my age, believe it or not.
Yeah,
but.
Well, I thought you were about 25.
I wish that was true.
You're the oldest, aren't you?
I'm the oldest.
You're the oldest.
I am the oldest. So
he acts older than you.
So when you got with Art, you were playing. And
well, I go over to Art in his kitchen, and that's where I learned a lot of the chords. See, I didn't know all these in between chords. Yeah. Circle of fifths, I think they call it, or something. And I'd never played anything in B flat or F.
Sure.
And they just about quit that down really around the state almost. And there's some beautiful tunes in B flat and F, Lord, some really pretty ones. And he just taught me, and
so he was older than you, and
he was my dad's age.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. He was 83, I think, when he died in '93. But he was not like a lot of them. He was a gentleman, really. But he could spot McDonald arches 20 miles away.
That's a good skill to have.
We toured all over the Midwest.
Well, that's great.
Had a consistent meal.
Yeah. No, then I'd say, let's eat at a restaurant tonight, Art. Okay. I said, I'll buy. Well, what's the special? That was always got the special. And
but only if you were buying.
Only if he was buying. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, well, we had a lot of fun. Lord, let's see. We mainly toured Arkansas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa. In Missouri, we had to go through the Missouri Arts Council. And, that's about it, that circle there. And we played a lot of tunes there. I was our bookie. I was the one who dealt with the people and everything. I kind of enjoyed that. But we played a lot of different places.
That's very cool.
Man.
Well, we sure appreciate all that you're doing. Continue to do. No, you keep doing stuff. You keep getting. Every time we're in here, somebody brings up, your name and the history of what you've done with the Ozarks and fiddle music in general, and getting people involved in it. And we sure appreciate it. As us not being from here originally, coming from Colorado.
Talked you up good. Well, I always wondered, am I doing the right thing?
Despite the fact that they're from Colorado, they're all
right.
No, that's all right. Colorado. It's Chicago. That's my son-in-law. But that's in our stories. It was always the dumb hillbilly that took the best of a Chicago guy. We never said New York, and there might be St. Louis once in a while. Never Kansas City, they were like us. But it was Chicago. It always was somebody from Chicago, that's our story. Oh Lord.
And it's probably him taking most of them.
Yeah.
He did it himself.
Oh no.
I know he's got to be a trickster.
I hope that you're going to edit the hey. This stuff is not going to be on your program. This is just somebody that
Welcome to
is now.
our newest affiliate in Chicago.
Yeah. Lordy.
Hope you enjoyed the one episode.
It's only time.
We've been canceled. No, Gordon, we do appreciate you coming by and spending time talking to us on the camera. And the stories that you're about to tell us off camera are even better. So
I don't even tell those stories anymore.
we do appreciate it. And we'll see you back in here next time you need guitar strings changed.
Yeah, that's right. I can't do it anymore with this hand. See, that's the trouble.
Me neither. But I'll do it for you anytime.
Yeah, but the thing is, somebody puts new strings on it, but they never tune it.
You got to pay extra for that.
Yeah, you got to pay
that's
extra
what
for
it's
the
gonna be.
tuning.
I
See,
got to.
that's that thing when we get with Chicago guys. We get them in with the string change, but then we charge extra for
Yeah,
tuning.
well, that's what I've been around too many of them, I guess. Now.
Well, thanks a lot, buddy.
Okay, well, I'm sitting here resting now.
Take your time.